All right, good morning. That right there was our campsite last night, and Riley and I are just getting started with the day. Got my pack on my back, got my trekking poles, and I actually was able to consolidate everything from the extra bag that I was carrying, a lot of it into my pack, and then I did have a little bit extra, so I've strapped the bag to the back of my pack, so I no longer, at least today, I'm not having to carry it. We'll see how it works. Today is Thursday, August 1st, day number 91. So we are into a new month, and we just have August, September, and then I'm guessing 15 days in October, but however much time in October we're given before Katahdin closes to finish the hike. We're starting today at mile 1272. Riley is starting by sniffing every single millimeter of the trail. Yeah, so miles 1272, we are 25.4 miles away from Delaware Water Gap. So we're on pace to get there sometime tomorrow. And when we get to Delaware Water Gap, that is the last spot. That's the last part of Pennsylvania. Once we leave Delaware Water Gap, we will cross the Delaware River on a bridge that goes across the Delaware River, and we will enter New Jersey, and we will be done with Pennsylvania. All right, so we made it to this road crossing. We haven't crossed the road yet, but this is where the water cache is. Yeah, and there's lots of water here. So I'm gonna drink up and hydrate, and I'm gonna give Riley some food and water. And the two girls, Squeeze and Dribble, they were here when we got here, and they just hiked on, so that's why Riley's barking. So at least we got water. Very good. Hello. Van Gogh here. Riley is right behind me. We are settling into a decent pace here. We left the water cache area at Smith Gap Road a short while ago, and we spent a little while there. I gave Riley food and lots of water. So much food and water that he actually, towards the end, he stopped eating it. And it may have been too much water. It's probably too much water. And then he just kind of lied down. Maybe he felt his stomach was too full with water, so he just lied down. But then after a bit, I was still doing other stuff. After a bit, he got up and finished the rest of it. He didn't have too much left to finish, and I was able to drink up a good bit. And I opened up my last bag of apple cinnamon Cheerios cereal that I packed out from Duncannon and started to munch on it. I still have one more bag of cereal. Packed out a lot of food from Duncannon. But yeah, so I was able to drink up and eat and get some food in my stomach. And I left with a little over 2 liters of water. I decided not to fill up all 4 liters because we're about 8 miles, or from Smith Gap Road, we're about 8 miles from, I think it's Pennsylvania Route 33, which leads in to the town of Wind Gap to the east. And so yeah, so we're about 8 miles away from that route. And there's a hotel, as I mentioned before, called Gateway Motel, which lets hikers fill up water for free, and it's only 0.2 off the trail. And even if I filled up all 4 liters of water, I would still want to go in and fill up again at that hotel, because we'll have done about 10 miles on the day once we get there, so it'll be somewhat close to the end of the day. So it'll be good to have that. That'll be it's always good to have as much water as you think you need going into when you're ready to get to camp. Yeah, so either way, I was gonna go in and fill up on water. Plus, there's no other good water sources on the trail after that, as far as I know, for the next like 14 miles or so. So we definitely need to fill up as much as we can when we get there. But since it's only 8 miles, I figure since Riley and I are both pretty well hydrated right now, 2 liters should be plenty to get us the next 8 miles. And Riley's hiking well. I think he's still motivated by the 2 girls, Squeeze and Dribble, who are in front of us. And we did get back in the forest yesterday, and we're back in the forest today. So we have much better shade compared to yesterday, and the hiking is just a whole lot easier. We don't have any sketchy rock mountains to climb where one misstep could result in a serious injury. We're back on solid ground, and this is really nice trail right here. Yeah, it's just kind of mixing between this really nice trail and then there are some rockier stretches, but it's just the type of rocks that kind of jab up into my feet. Nothing that requires a lot of climbing or anything. And the elevation profile is very level today, so we haven't had to do any climbs yet, and I don't expect to have to do any significant climbs for the rest of the day. So yeah, I'm feeling all right. I feel like we should be able to. We're just hiking. But I was gonna say I feel like we should be able to get 14 or 15 miles in today, but we'll see. Just gotta hike and enjoy the day. I'm definitely conscious of the fact that it's so easy to just focus on the end goal of getting to Katahdin, and then the daily goals of just getting our 12.2 miles in, or whatever the new average is that we need to average to get to Katahdin. It's so easy to fall in the trap of just blindly focusing on doing a certain number of miles each day. And then I guess the risk is that you don't enjoy the journey as you're going through it. But I feel like even though I am focusing a lot on the miles and trying to make sure we stay on pace, at the same time, while we're trying to stay safe and stay hydrated and not fall down, not get injured. I feel like I'm still, like, this is all just what the process is. This is what the AT experience is. And whether I try to think about enjoying it in the moment or I don't think about enjoying it, like, it's still an awesome experience and an awesome adventure. And all of these challenges that we're going through, yesterday going up through the climb after Lehigh Gap, which was crazy difficult and kind of ridiculous a little bit, and trying to navigate all the just put up with the heat, especially with Riley, and getting through the rocks. These are all challenges, obviously, and they're all creating amazing memories that, as long as we don't get injured and die, that I will look back on with extreme fondness in the future. And I will be very proud and pleased that I was able to experience this adventure with Mr. Riley. I can't speak for Riley. I don't know if he's going to look back on this with the same fondness that I look back on it. I don't know how far he remembers, because I'm not in his mind. But he's hiking well. He's got his tail curled up. He seems happy, at least right now. And I'm just trying to balance staying on pace to complete the hike, along with giving him the rest that he needs to be comfortable. Another thing that happened last night, so I was getting ready to go to sleep, and I got my Kindle out and I was going to do some reading in my book, Gone Girl, and I turned it on, pressed the button to turn it on, and it didn't turn on. So apparently my Kindle has gone kerplunk. Like when I try to charge it using my power bank, the light on the bottom of it does light up like it's supposed to when I'm charging it. But when I look at the screen, it's just got a bunch of random lines on it, and it doesn't show me anything relating to, what I'm used to seeing. It doesn't show me any of the books. It doesn't show me the text of the books. It's just a bunch of random gibberish. So something happened yesterday. I don't know what it was. It was just, I normally keep it in my fanny pack right here, and I keep it inside of a doggy bag to keep it somewhat protected. But I don't know. I mean, it's not obviously damaged physically, as far as I can tell. It's something in the software inside of it that is just not the way it should be. So I can't read anymore on my Kindle. So that was something that I really enjoyed doing. Now I can't do it anymore, at least for the time being. But I think it's not all bad, because in addition to like all the pleasure that I got from reading, it also keeps me up longer than I should at night. Like there's nights where there's many nights that have occurred where I'm trying to read before going to sleep, because that's basically like one of the few times that I'm able to read. And I ended up staying up, even though I'm tired, just to read. And I feel like I should go to sleep. And sometimes I'm so tired that I just fall asleep. But sometimes I'm like trying to fight the urge to fall asleep because I want to keep reading. Anyway, so why I say it's not all bad is that now that I don't have to worry about that, now I won't feel the urge to do some other activity at night after we have our primary chores done of getting the tent set up and getting ourselves fed and getting ourselves comfortable in our sleeping bag, etc. Now there's nothing else to distract me other than Riley, which is fine. And once all that's done, then I can just relax and go to sleep. And so it should help with me getting better rest, actually. And I did actually experience that a little bit last night, because once I realized that the Kindle wasn't working, I just accepted it and relaxed and went to sleep. And I felt like I got more sleep last night, which is definitely a very useful thing. You gotta get sufficient rest out here. It makes such a huge difference in how good you feel. So I'm not like upset about what happened to the Kindle. It's had a good life. I've gotten a lot of good use out of it, and I can look into getting it repaired, or I can replace it. And I will definitely at some point finish that book that I'm reading. Something to look forward to in the future. So that's a little update for today. The trail continues to be nice. Got a little rocks to navigate, but nothing too serious. We're making our way through Pennsylvania, and we should get to Delaware Water Gap sometime tomorrow, assuming everything goes according to plan. So this is something called Hans Lookout. Compared to the views that we've seen, there's some trash down here. What is this? Just some paper. Compared to the views that we've seen, this doesn't seem super impressive. Right, come on. So we are going to continue on the AT here. We are descending down into this town that I don't know the proper pronunciation of. It's either Wind Gap or Wind Gap. I think we go this way here. Whoops. So it actually rained earlier. The sky was all clouded over. When we got to the side trail that led 0.15 miles into Leroy Smith Shelter, we took a break there, and that's when it started to rain. Started to rain just like drops there, but I realized it was going to start to rain a little bit heavier, so I made sure to get my pack all packed up, and just as we were ready to hike on, it started to come down. And so Riley and I both got soaked, but because it's so hot out, it actually felt good. I didn't bother putting our rain gear on, and it only was heavy for like 10 minutes, and then it started to taper off, and now you can't even tell that it rained. I should probably put this on my head here rather than holding it in my hand. There we go. Hold up, Riley. So that was like the perfect time for it to rain, which is in the middle of the day on a warm day. Definitely help us feel cooler, break up the heat, but now it's just back to being a warm day. But at least we didn't have to endure the warmness for the entire day. Yeah, so we hiked on for a bit, and after a few miles, my shoulders were getting pretty tired from the weight of my pack, so I decided to take a break. And I was looking for a campsite for a while, like a nice spot on the side of the trail, but I couldn't find anything. So eventually I just decided to stop and just take a break, like right on the trail. and I ate up a bunch of cereal and drank some water, and Riley rested, and nobody passed us while we were there. And now my shoulders feel rusted, and we're walking again. And right where we passed that overlook there, it's supposed to be 1 mile to the Pennsylvania, I think it's Route 33, that leads 1 mile east into Wine Gap. And there's also the Gateway Motel, that's 2/10 of a mile east, where we can get water at. And it's also possible that there will be a water cache there, in which case we won't need to bother walking the 2/10 of a mile back and forth to the hotel. Feels still early in the day. When we get to this road, I think we'll be close to about 10 miles for the day, and it definitely still feels early, so that is that. Riley, what am I missing, man? What am I missing? Riley's hiking fine today. The girls that caught up to us this morning, we last saw them back at Smith Gap Road where the last water cache was, and they have sped on past us, or they've just, continued on, and they're hiking faster than us. So the only reason we've seen them a few times is because they tend to go into various towns, and that cuts into their hiking time, whereas Riley and I are generally not going into towns, and we're just being Mr. and Mr. consistent, staying on the trail and hiking forward. And I'm starting to get more familiar with the towns in front of us, like in the near term and in the longer term. So I'm starting to look forward to towns that are all the way up to like New Hampshire, because that used to be in the far distant future, and now it's just in the future. It's not so far distant anymore. So basically, we're probably gonna get to Delaware Water Gap tomorrow, and I'll be able to get more dog food for Riley for the next stretch of trail. And then the next good opportunity to resupply will be Unionville, New York, which is about 50 miles from Delaware Water Gap. That's at mile approximately 1350. And then after that, the next good resupply point will be about mile 1415, which is a few miles, about 6 miles after the Bear Mountain Zoo. So this place that I'm talking about, it's called, I think it's called just like the Appalachian. It's got Appalachian in its name, and it's just a convenience store. So there's this somewhat busy road crossing that we're gonna cross. About 6 miles after where the Bear Mountain Zoo is located. And in the center of the roadway, from what I remember in 2018, there's a convenience store. And it's got a deli inside. It's a pretty stacked convenience store. It's got lots of options, and I'm pretty sure they'll have dog food there. Like I said, they have a deli there. And it's also open 24 hours. This was memorable for me in 2018 because it was not listed in the AT AWOL guidebook that I was using back then. So I didn't know about it until like the day of that we were going to get there, when I started to hear other hikers talking about it. Anyway, so that's about 65 miles after Unionville. So that'll be and it's right on. You don't have to walk any distance, like off trail. Like obviously you have to walk off trail to get inside, but it's right next to the trail, which is super convenient. And then after that, mile 14, 15. And by the way, between Unionville and this Appalachian convenience store, there's a couple other small shops. One called Heaven Hill Farm. All right, it's all dark here. My GoPro battery died the last time I was talking. I believe I was cut off when I was talking about the upcoming places that are available for us to resupply at, and I was talking about there's Heaven Hill Farm and another place called Bellevale Creamery. Those are just places after Unionville, but before that Appalachian convenience store at mile 14, 15. So those are possible stopping points, but I have plenty of time to think about that. We're still in Pennsylvania, but yeah, so Riley and I are in our tent now. We made it to the road, PA 33, and there was no water cache there. And I was saying earlier how early it felt, but the time went by quickly. So we got to the road crossing, and it's not a very hiker-friendly road. There's a good bit of traffic on it, not a big shoulder at all. To continue north, you have to make a right, and then you immediately go under a bridge. And of course it's harder with Riley, because if it were just me, I could easily just walk far away from the traffic. And with Riley, it just expands the overall area that we take up. And Riley just, for some reason, he's not afraid of the cars, and he just prefers to walk closer to the center of the road, or closer to the direction of where the cars are. And so it's a challenge for me to try to keep him away from the cars so that we're as safe as possible when we're walking on the road. Anyway, so we ended up going to the Gateway Hotel. I'm not sure if it's called Gateway Hotel or Gateway Motel. It's more like a motel, as opposed to a hotel. But we had a tricky time getting there. So Wind Gap, or Wind Gap, is apparently 1 mile east of where the AT intersects PA Route 33. And in my AT AWOL guidebook, it says that this Gateway Motel is 0.2 east. So it's like you have to go in the direction of where Wind Gap is, but you don't have to go all the way into town. But on the map that they have in the guidebook, it shows the motel as being west of the intersection, like on the other side, in the opposite direction of where Wind Gap is. But it says both are east. So that's definitely contradictory. And then of course there's far out. Far out gives you a map. If you like you can actually see the location of the motel on a map, so you know where it is directly in relation to where you are. But I just thought it would be easy. I assumed that the text direction was correct in the AT-AWOL guide and that I needed to go east. So we immediately took a right turn and started walking down the road. And then we passed by where you're supposed to turn to continue on the AT, because I assumed that this motel would just be a little bit further down. And we walked a little bit further down, and I didn't see any sign of the motel, and it seemed like we were going downhill. And the sun was still bright, and it was hot, and I was getting annoyed walking on this narrow shoulder with all the cars going by. And then I decided to check far out to see how close it was, and far out showed me that the motel was in the opposite direction of where the AT let us out on the road. So apparently we were walking in the wrong direction. And then I decided there was a phone number, so I decided to call the motel and just ask for directions. And I was able to get through, but number one, I couldn't really hear the guy who was talking to me very well because there was a lot of traffic, and also he had an accent that made it hard for me to understand what he was saying. But I'm pretty sure I basically just said, do I need to go left or right? And I'm pretty sure he confirmed that I needed to go left, which meant that the far out map was correct, and that the motel was really to the west instead of to the east. So we hiked back, and then eventually we did find it, and it actually was not far. It's just like 1/10 of a mile to the west. But we ended up wasting a good bit of walking time and just tiring ourselves out by going east first and then having to retrace our steps. Anyway, so we eventually got there, and the guy that I spoke with, he's apparently the caretaker of the motel, and he was super nice. He made me feel very comfortable. We were able to fill up our water there, and he also showed me that there's a hiker box. Like he has a little room where they sell stuff for hikers for resupply, and they also have a hiker box in there. And so I was able to get some good goodies as well, which also means that the bag that I'm carrying is even heavier now. But I got a lot of good goodies. I was able to get 2 cans of V8, which I drank there. That really was very, very nice to drink something other than water. But yeah, I got some. People had put some canned vegetables in the hiker box, and some boxes of Jello mix, and some fruit cup in little plastic cups, and some ramen and some mashed potatoes, instant mashed potatoes. So yeah, I got some good stuff, and the V8 that I was able to drink was really good. It just means that I'm carrying even more weight now, so that's just the trade-off that goes with carrying food. Anyway, so eventually we were able to continue on from the motel, and we left about 7 p.m. I think we got to the road probably about 5:30, and then we ended up leaving around 7. And we had a pretty substantial climb out of the gap. We eventually completed the climb and got back onto more level terrain. And the terrain was mostly rocky, Some stretches of nice trail, but mostly rocky. And we ended up hiking another 3.5 miles out from PA 33. And yeah, so we did a total of 13.4 miles today, and we're currently in mile 1285.4, and that puts us 12 miles south of Delaware Water Gap. Yeah, so the rain was nice earlier in the day, but it quickly got warm again, quickly got hot again. So it was definitely a nice. Would have been even hotter if it hadn't rained. So the rain was definitely appreciated. And yeah, the guy at the motel was super nice. Riley is doing fine. He's resting here. I'm about to give him his dinner. It's a little after 10 p.m. right now, so we did have to do a bit of night hiking to get to our campsite. Our campsite, by the way, it's not a I was targeting to get to a campsite that I saw in Far Out that's like 1.4 miles ahead. So we would have had to hike even further if we ended up going there, but I ended up finding just a little opening to the left, on the left side of the trail, that it's not entirely flat, but it's flat enough, and it's an opening where it's just mostly grass. The majority of for the last, I would say, mile or so, I haven't seen any campsites, and this just seemed like an opportunity to set up our tent, and I was able to set up our tent, and it's gonna work. There is a little bit of a slope to it, but it'll work fine. It'll work fine. Well, I'll just sleep with my head at the top and my legs at the bottom. So the slope is going down from my head to my toes, and there's very little slope from side to side, so it should work fine. But it's definitely not a designated camp, like a true campsite. It's just really, I guess the term for it would be a stealth campsite, where you just find some place that works to set up your tent, and that's wonderful. If you really need a campsite. So what else? So we should be able to get to Delaware Water Gap tomorrow. I am not convinced that we're going to spend the night in Delaware Water Gap. It obviously depends what time we get there, but I'm thinking I would like to just hike on through. I'm not even sure that we need to get more dog food for Riley, because I still have a lot from the 7.5 pound bag that I was able to get at the Lookout Hostel, and we have 50 miles to go to get to Unionville, which, depending on how we do in New Jersey, we could be able to do that in 3 days. So yeah, at this point, my preference would be to just continue to hike on, especially since I have plenty of food in my food bag, but we'll see. I have all day tomorrow to think about it. So I will say good night, and as always, I hope you're doing well. Feel free to leave any comments, questions, whenever I have an opportunity to check comments or questions, I will gladly respond. And I also just wanted to clarify something that I haven't addressed before. previously I was talking a lot about how I was having trouble uploading videos to YouTube. That was like a big theme that I was talking about, and I haven't really talked about that recently. And so in case you're curious about that, I just wanted to explain that the reason I haven't been talking about it much recently is that I was able to get some help to make it a lot easier on me, so that the videos can be uploaded. And in particular, when I was able to meet up with my parents in Harper's Ferry, my mom actually agreed to help me with uploading the videos. So when I was in Harper's Ferry and I spent some time with my parents, I was able to show her the process to upload the videos, and she's been able to do a great job in uploading the older videos that I had accumulated but hadn't been able to upload yet. And the plan is for that to continue for the rest of the hike. So that makes it so much easier on me, and that I don't have to worry about trying to get Wi-Fi access and then staying up all night. I can just focus on the hiking with Riley and getting the sleep that we need in our tent. So it's an enormous help for me, and just wanted to explain that. So very thankful to my mom for helping out with that. And with that, I will say good night, and we will check in tomorrow. Bye for now.